before roads crossed South Florida, before railroads connected the region to the rest of the country, this land waited quietly beneath the South Florida sun. A wild and remote landscape of pine scrub, tall pines, saw palmetto, shallow brackish lagoons and encroaching everglades, open water, and distant horizons stretched beneath an endless sky. By the early 1880s, a handful of people lived here. The summers were hot, the humidity relentless, and the mosquitoes legend. Along the quiet and untamed edge of the vast Everglades wilderness, the scattered settlers found isolation, beauty, hardship, and possibility. Here, amid the buzz of insects and the call of woodpeckers, before Samuel and Fannie James arrived, a few pioneer families had already settled along Lake Worth, carving modest homes from the untamed South Florida wilderness. In one of America's last frontiers, the first signs of a remarkable community began to emerge. Across the wide waters of Lake Worth, in 1885, a small group of new settlers arrived searching for a place in the sun. Among the newcomers were Samuel and Fannie James. They arrived carrying little more than determination, experience, and hope for a better future. Native Jaga and Seminoles who had once traveled these lands had long since been driven away. The frontier remained quiet, isolated, and largely unsettled. Far from the world they once knew, the James family would begin building a new life. Everything they owned had to arrive by boat, one careful trip across the quiet waters. There were no hardware stores, sawmills, or lumber yards nearby. Fortunately, the frontier offered abundance in other ways. Fishing was exceptional. Deer, oysters, and snook were plentiful. The true challenge was not survival, but enduring the heat, humidity, flooding, and endless mosquitoes. Slowly, a sturdy homestead began to rise from the wilderness, and with it came the first foundations of community. Each morning brought new work, and every task helped shape their new beginning. Every acre of dense scrub had to be cleared through hard, relentless labor. Soil beneath the South Florida sun. Day by day, life became a little easier as their hard work slowly took root. Neighbors visited. Friendships formed, creating bonds that strengthened the growing frontier community. On this isolated frontier, people learned to depend on one another. In time, this remote settlement found connection with the outside world. Fannie James became more than a settler. To serve her neighbors, Fannie opened part of their home as Jewell's post office. She became a link between isolated families and distant places. Letters carried news from across Florida, from distant states, and sometimes even from across the ocean. For those living on the frontier, even a single letter could bring enormous joy. He settled gently across the land, quiet and enduring, would continue to shape the community, known among their neighbors as the Black Diamonds, a name that honored their mixed-race background, Irish and African American, reflecting both their resilience and the respect they earned within the growing settlement. Reaching Jewell was never easy. Most mail arrived by small sailboat traveling south along the lake. Other messages continued onward by foot along the beaches toward Miami. Mail carriers crossed empty shorelines, endured storms, and often slept beneath the stars. Along the lonely coast, small houses of refuge provided shelter for shipwrecked sailors and barefoot mailmen. Across water and wilderness, connections slowly grew. Over time, the frontier began to change. The Everglades were drained. Canals were dug. More homesteaders arrived, planting orange orchards and pineapple. New communities dotted the waterfront. As more pioneer families arrived, isolated homesteads slowly became a growing frontier community along the shores of Lake Worth. In 1896, there was great celebration when the Florida East Coast Railway to Miami came through, opening the way for a wave of new neighbors, workers, and business opportunities. A simple mailbag carried more than letters. It carried a community into a new era. The post office itself would eventually move inland, closer to the tracks and the future they represented. The quiet settlement of Jewell began to fade, but the story of Fannie and Samuel James and the community they helped build would remain. There, on the edge of the Everglades for a few brief years, people from different backgrounds found something increasingly rare: opportunity, community, and peace. Fannie James once considered calling this place La Paz, Spanish for peace. But that hope did not unfold without interruption. In the decades that followed, a stranger named Jim Crow pushed the dream of equality and harmony into the shadows. Yet it was not erased. And in time, beneath the South Florida sky, the dream of Jewell and the Black Diamonds found its way home.
It feels like home to me. It feels like home to me.